Did you guys see that before Passover? There was a little hubbub to do with Douglas Murray, who I mentioned before. Not so much of a fan of him because even though he does very good hasbara on arguing these things, and he used to have interesting podcasts about intellectual matters, he's also a manova. And we wish that all mankind would, at least try to keep the Noahide code, the moral code that God gave to all mankind. And we're not proud, or we do not approve of people who openly violate it and say that they do. What are you going to do? He's been a good defender of Israel since the war began. But just before Passover, he did a horrible job debating well-known Jewish anti-Semite Dave Smith, who I never heard of before he did this, but apparently he is well-known. Smith claims to be a comedian. For a Jew, that should be an easy profession. Many Jewish comedians have a good sense of humor. They're quite successful. I would imagine that Jews even invented comedy, okay, among other things. And Smith has really made his bones with the anti-Semitic approach, like many other well-known modern loudmouths. It's a Gemara in Sanhedrin, by the way. Has Daf Yomi gotten to it? What do you call it? Onkelus's question of various, when he used necromancy to ask some questions about his upcoming conversion to some prominent individuals from history, like the big JC and Bilam, right? And he was told that the key to success in this world, if you want to make it big, is go with the anti-Semitism. It worked for that Ahmadinejad, if you remember him in Iran, and many others. It's really skyrocketed that Owens woman into real fame after hanging out with philo-Semites. So that's the approach he's taken. It's a pretty good way to go, even if you're Jewish. So Murray was actually, and many have taken him to task for his constant appeal to authority. That's what he was saying for an hour. Certain people should be able to opine on this, and certain people don't know what they're talking about. Now, I believe in this case he was correct that, yes, Smith doesn't know what he's talking about, but he didn't rebut anything that Smith would say. Okay? He should have, for example, if he really believed that Smith was saying things that were incorrect, he should have started giving examples. Dave Smith, you say X, Y, and Z about Israel, but the fact is A, B, C. And he could have made a laundry list. I could have done it for him, but he didn't. He just kept saying that Joe Rogan, who's also a manovel, who you shouldn't listen to regularly, is not a role model. He peddles in shvichus damim. Okay, so why are we even bothering these people? But he's sort of rebuking him. You don't need to go down into the sewers to talk to him. But I think that it would have been better if he had actually rebutted him on the points, which he did not start to do. Maybe he merely alluded to it, but he could have done a much better job. In his defense, I'll give him Don the Kafskuz. He might have been a little bit shicker at the time. Okay? It's well known that those types of people, when they do these podcasts, do get shicker or worse right before going on air. Right? We don't know what they're smoking beforehand, so whatever. But the telling point was an hour and 20 minutes or so in. And here's just saying that, no, I didn't see anybody else address, so I'll address it. Right away, someone can ask me, when do you have time to listen to all this? The answer, before Passover, I have to do a lot of cleaning around the house. And I use a radio-like device. This is the only time I get to listen to these things. So, as guys who have visited also, on Erev Shabbos, I have a rule. You have to treat your wife like a queen, and your daughters are halachically princesses, which means you shouldn't have them clean things that are ichi. Cleaning things like the toilets and the bathroom, etc. If you're a real man, you do not let your wife ever do it, and you don't let your daughters do it either. So I believe in doing that. So when I'm cleaning up in those types of places, this is the type of stuff I'm listening to. Okay? Because other than that, you should be listening to the Rabbi's Shiurim or something like that. So here's what surprised me. Remember, this was I guess Erev Pesach hearing this. Smith pointed out that the Israeli deep staters basically have admitted to propping up and cultivating the Hamas microstate all these years, which is true. Says your defense minister pointed out this and Netanyahu, and yes, the Israeli deep state and the government in many, blatant ways, just like during the war, they're letting in the so-called humanitarian aid. They've been allowing the Gazans to stockpile things and collect taxes from the Palestinian Authority. The powers that be here in the state of Israel have basically nurtured Hamas. So Douglas Murray said that it was incredulous. How could that be? You'd think they'd want to nurture a terror state that's been harassing them all these years, shooting rockets at them, harassing them now as attack them, you know? So Douglas Murray couldn't believe that. And the answer is, by the way, sorry, not the answer. There are many Jews who can't believe that. It's like our government would bring this upon us, that somehow we allowed Hamas to grow and Gaza to become one gigantic festering Amalek cancer lesion on the state of Israel that eventually come to greatly harm us? And the answer is, unfortunately, Douglas Murray's wrong and Dave Smith is right. It's true. It's very true. We call them the Erev Rav. We talk about Amaleks, we talk about Erev Rav, we talk about our own homegrown traders. And that's exactly what they've been doing. And they're still trying to do it all the time. And the war is going on now. Remember, they keep saying it's a real burden on the tzibur. And a year and a half, I was going to say an hour and a half, a year and a half of war going on. And it's really taxing the reservists and everybody. So why don't they just let them win the war? Going very slowly, at least thank God now you hear about less casualties. Even so, unfortunately, there are Jewish casualties. They're just telling you less about them, and they're not killing anybody. But even a loyal non-Jewish soldier was killed on Shabbos, I think. It's terrible. Many girls have been injured. Okay? Sometimes, some critically. Why don't they just allow them to destroy the enemy? It's ridiculous. How long do wars go on for? It's unending. So the Erev Rav has allowed this. And it's unfortunate people aren't realizing it. However, I guess Joe Rogan did get some penance a little bit on this thing, because a little bit later he had some Kennedy character, who's also, I think, the Shofech Damin, pointed out to him the very simple truth, which has been stated by many early Zionists. If they would just put down their guns, there'd be peace. If we'd put down our guns, there would be war. That one's made by the most ardent, I guess, secularist and atheists. Even that atheist Jew, he should have a refuah shlema. Sam Harris pointed this one out. The Jews wanted to destroy all the local Arabs. They could have done so many times over. They would just let us have peace. There would be peace. And that's the ultimate argument. That's the only argument that needs to be made. They are Rishonim. Am Yisrael is mostly tzaddikim, except the head. You know, where we need to replace those who are in charge. Okay, what are you going to do about it?